Something that's been happening across the country and now is happening in my hometown of Orlando, Florida. We are finally getting around to talking about the removal of the Confederate monument in Lake Eola. It's a hot button topic right now across the country in different places. There's one in Virginia where basically we have a bunch of people showing up with torches and rioting in support of the Confederate monuments, which, if that really doesn't make you think of a certain group of people that's not very savory, then what does? But it's been something going on for a number of years now. It's actually something you'll find a bit of agreement between myself and people like Lindsey Graham. Who knew? Some talk about the idea that if we do away with Confederate monuments and taking down of the Confederate flag, that we're, doing some sort of disservice to history. And then others see those things as very symbolic of hate. I would say that there are points to be made on both sides, but really, ultimately, when it comes down to it, if you think about things that you want to commemorate with a monument, is one of those things really commemorating a group of people that wanted to preserve slavery and racism and hate? I really don't think that that's something that we want to commemorate. Is it something that we should be teaching in our schools and so on and so forth? Absolutely. But, let's face it, guys. It's time to take down the Confederate monuments and take down the stars and bars. It's time to do away with them being commemorated. I know, I've seen all of the heritage, not hate, stars and bars, bumper stickers and things like that. And that's a great way to think about it. However, there are so many great things about Southern heritage to commemorate that don't involve the stars and bars. A lot of great things, like sweet tea, SEC football, NASCAR, fried chicken, Daisy Dukes, barbecue, Daisy Dukes. Did I mention Daisy Dukes? But not the secession. Not the secession predicated on the preservation of slavery. Guys, I know, yes, the whole history thing in the Civil War, and it was very important. But it was a slaveholders' rebellion, folks. That's what it was. I know there's a lot of people out there that tote the line, oh, no, it wasn't about slavery, it wasn't only about slavery, and this idea that even it was just barely about slavery. That is not true. That was actually history's first introduction of fake news. Follow me on this one, guys. The submitted articles of secession from each state specifically cited slavery as their chief reason for wanting to leave the Union. That was it. Some of those articles of secession from some of those states only cited slavery. The rest of them mainly cited slavery. And I'm not even sure that any of them really talked about states' rights. As a matter of fact, just before the Civil War, it was the southern states that were actually petitioning the federal government against the idea of states' rights, because it was the state of New York that asserted that they wanted to have their states' rights to be able to protect escaped slaves. So the South was before they were against it? I don't know. It wasn't about states' rights. It was solely about slavery. Now, where did this idea of it was about states' rights come from? Hold on to your hats, folks. That was actually written by the North. It was actually the North that said it in kind of a condescending way, really. It was kind of like one of those, like, oh, it's okay, Widow Southie. We know you didn't. We want to have the slaves. It was states' rights. That's what we'll tell you. That's what we'll say. It was really kind of condescending. The North came in, told the South, this is what we're going to go with. And we really needed to do something that was going to unify the country, so that was the best technique that they had. Change the whole motive for the whole war. But actually, guys, it was a swerve. It was a swerve done to try to preserve some sense of dignity for the South. Okay, we had a disagreement, it was about states' rights, but now we're going to move on. That was their whole technique. But did they even really deserve to have their dignity restored? I mean, come on. So they had their dignity preserved for that moment while they were still alive to get them through the day. But do we really need to commemorate them? Again, this was about treason. I've recently heard the argument, well, it's still part of America. Is it really? Again, the whole point of the secession was to leave America, to not be a part of the United States of America. So how can you stand on principle of saying that it's part of America when the whole thing was predicated on leaving it? You're making no sense, folks. Remember that whole statement that you hear from a lot of people, usually on the right, usually the people that want to preserve the stars and bars, America, love it or leave it? Well, that's the thing. They decided to leave it. Leaving the Founding Fathers, it's leaving the Constitution, it's leaving the whole kit and caboodle. America, love it or leave it. America decided to get rid of slavery, and they wanted to leave it. But you're going to say that that's part of America? You know, there's a whole term for this. It's something like, cognitive dissonance. I invite you to watch our first video, but I digress. But we shouldn't be commemorating the secession. That's all there is to it. I mean, commemorating the secession is something akin to commemorating the doctors who performed the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. Do we really want to put those guys' names on a wall? No, it was terrible what they did. They specifically withheld treatment for men that had syphilis, gave other guys syphilis, and just sat back and watched it happen. And for what? To commemorate the Confederacy is very much akin to commemorating that. Now, should we learn from it? Should we remember it so that we can not repeat our mistakes that we've made in history? Yes, absolutely. But there is a big difference between putting a giant obelisk in a park and saying this is in commemoration to a group of people, and putting what happened and those deeds that they did in a history book or in a museum piece or something like that so that we can learn from it. You can definitely draw a line between those two things. If you don't understand that difference, I don't know what to tell you. But for my part, and I think for the part of a lot of Americans who want to just be able to walk through a park and not be reminded of something terrible, just enjoy their day at the park, enjoy their day at Lake Eola, and not look over their shoulder and see something that commemorates a group of people that would tell that family that they're not welcome here. When Rosie O'Donnell said, if Trump wins, I'm leaving, and you people want him to leave, or want her to leave, well, the South just basically said, if this Lincoln guy wins, I'm leaving the country, and they did. The CSA is very much to commemorate that, you asshole. Oh, there's an event today. American Craft Beer Kickoff.